Charles, it's a rather rainy day.
In Mudville.
In more ways than one, to tell you the truth. But here in New York City, terrible weather, so we're inside today. And that's not all that's terrible. As we discussed the other day, this is a cascading series of failures that are just like shooting out little mini disasters that are erupting. Where do you want to begin today, Charles?
Well, I tried this out on my brother actually yesterday at lunch, and he didn't sign on to the theory. But my working theory here is whenever I see somebody get a gift that they don't deserve, particularly if it's a gigantic gift, I ask myself, why did that person receive a gift? So if we go into the case of Joe Biden, and I'm not bragging because I haven't met that many people who became president, but I did meet him when I was 18 years old. He came, there was this program, I think I've talked to you about it before, where I dissed Jimmy Carter when he was governor.
Oh, right.
There's a program, there were when I went to Yale College, there were 12 dorms, we call them residential colleges, and each dorm had a person in charge, two people in charge. It was a ceremonial master, you call them.
Oops.
And I don't think they do that anymore.
They're not calling that anymore.
And then a dean. And the master was kind of the CEO and the dean was the COO. And the family that got together, or the family that it still, I think, runs or may have a big shareholding in Chubb Insurance, had given an endowment to Timothy Dwight College to pay the costs and an honorarium for reasonably famous people to come in and live with the students for 1, 2, or 3 days.
Wow.
And interact and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner and give small speeches and stuff like that. And so I went to the dinner where young Joe Biden, and this is 1974.
Dumb Joe Biden? Sorry.
Both.
Say again.
Actually, I have to I take issue with that. I was only 18, and I basically had spent, until that moment in time, most of my life trying to play tennis, go skiing. I wasn't particularly interested in politics, though I had spent that summer at Simpson Thacher as a proofreader.
Simpson Thacher?
The law firm, yeah.
You know, there's an assistant U.S. attorney who later became a lawyer there who had something to do with TWA 800.
Simpson Thacher, yeah. No, so I took the law board. I took a lot of different exams graduating from high school, and I said, what the hell? Maybe I could just jump into law school and not.
I like it.
Right. So I took the law boards, and I got, back then on a score of 800 was the perfect score. I got a 662.
Wow.
As an 18-year-old. And I should have maybe just ditched Yale and gone. But anyway, so I got to Yale, and I said, I'm going to change my focus.
Change. Hope.
Exactly. And there's a chance to have this dinner, and of course Joe Biden was late. But he got there, and I have to say, he delivered a spellbinding performance. So at variance to what he said.
This was 40 years ago?
40. It was almost 50 years ago.
Yeah, I think he's lost it since then. 2 brain surgeries and...
A little bit. But I mean, it was one of those things, and again, I was an 18-year-old kid, so perhaps I was easily impressed, but he got up there and he went around the room and he introduced himself to everybody. He instantly knew everybody's name. He gave some remarks, and then he took questions, and he got the names early, and then we had the dinner, and then he took the questions.
And he knew people's names.
He knew people's names.
See, that's a particular skill that I won't deny, but that's like a Las Vegas mentalist.
But again, he was 29, 30 years old, or however old he was. And the point is the stunning contrast between what he was then and what he is now. And going back to, most people fell, frankly, for the idea that it was okay for Twitter to kill the New York Post story about the laptop from hell, and for the mainstream media to abandon any pretense of examining just how odd it was that Hunter Biden, an idiot, I think Tony Blair just called Joe Biden an imbecile. Hunter Biden is not smart enough to be an imbecile. And there is no, excuse my language for this, there is no fucking way that Hunter Biden legitimately got $1 billion private equity fund together when his father, I don't know if his father was vice president or if he had just been vice president. There's no way. That is not the way the institutional private equity fund business works.
Breaking news, Charles.
What?
Apparently, Jack Dorsey has obtained equipment and clothing from the Taliban, and he's parading around in it.
Yeah.
I've heard that on the news.
Exactly. So it must be right. But Joe Biden has already done far worse than turn over the material and the money and the PR value of this humiliation in progress that is only just beginning, frankly. In
slow motion train wreck.
Well, when we think about it in economic terms, China has long held the ambition to do the Belt and Road thing from China just right the way through to across Asia to the European landmass, and to conquer, frankly, regimes, states that had previously been in the Soviet Union, so that they have a clear path to go scoop up all the natural resources. Remember, Kazakhstan, as one example, has uranium.
They're already getting down with the Taliban.
Afghanistan is Gone, Afghanistan, is reportedly has vast stores of rare earth, which are quite essential. It's not just they're valuable; they're essential for modern technology. And here we had Bagram Air Force Base. We had a 20-year presence. I don't know how much of it was at Bagram, but a long presence at Bagram Air Force Base.
Somebody said it's one of the most advanced military bases on Earth.
Yeah. But so the point being, we had that, and it was right in the underbelly, right near China, as a deterrent against Russia. Right. And this ass clown, this dirt muncher, Joe Biden, decides that he's going to get up there when he isn't sniffing little girls and stand atop a parade of clowns. And I mean, I looked at those 5 people who were there at the Friday press conference. Yeah. One stupider than the next, frankly. and you know, that they would decide.
Well, who did we have there, Charles? It was Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, we had Lloyd Austin. And Biden goes in there. I mean, he was really good at remembering names in 1974. He couldn't remember the name of his own defense
Vice President. He's like, whoever these people are.
Yeah, this general over here, this some dude, you know, the man. Come on, man. The lying dog-faced pony soldier over here who's my Secretary of Defense. I mean, it was a singularly unimpressive presentation. The kind that, you know, if you're going in, let's say you're working on I was working on a small merger deal, a small acquisition deal. You're rehearsing with the CEO who's going to go and talk to the target or talk to the person who's trying to buy the company and to convince them not to do it. So you have a sit-down session where the CEO, you give him a script, or you work with a person on a script, and the person tries it out, you play the other side, you try to go through. I would just go, and I'm not in the movie business, but I'd let this idiot start talking, and I'd just go, cut.
Yeah.
Like, cut you out of the fucking program, dude. You're not gonna be appearing live. We're gonna get somebody else. Trump was hilarious last night. He made mistakes, but remember when he said at one point, he was explaining the situation in Afghanistan to a 5-year-old member of his family.
Oh, yeah.
And the 5-year-old did a better job.
I wouldn't do that.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's not merely that this is the biggest, it's either purposeful error or error. And I say possibly purposeful because when we work, I don't know how much you know about private equity funds, but the way they work, when somebody says that Hunter Biden got $1 billion fund, he didn't get a check for $1 billion. That's not the way it works. You sign up as an investor, either general partner if you're running it or a limited partner if you're just an investor, and you agree typically to put an amount of money up over an investment period, which is normally 5 years. And you sign a piece of paper which says you absolutely have to fund your commitment within a certain day's notice. Typically it's 10 days notice. Some can be shorter, can be longer. And you don't have an out. You've signed the commitment, and if you fail to fund, the fund manager takes all the money that you've already put in.
Oh.
And so when the Chinese elements stood up and decided to give a crackhead a commitment to put in $1 billion to some fund that could go to zero, $1 billion is a pittance to get the United States out of Afghanistan,
right,
demoralized in Europe.
We've never been weaker.
Right, to have the Brits do. Now, I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a fan at all. In fact, I think Tony Blair should be in prison. But for Tony Blair a former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and an aspirant to be the first president, spelled with two S's, to be leader of the first president of the United States of Europe, for him to call Biden an imbecile while our people and while British people, soldiers and others, are at risk in Kabul, for him to go and make a statement like that, following the House of Commons and the House of Lords, both condemning the sitting American president, for Boris Johnson to say we'd be better off with Trump now. He's a criminal, frankly. He was foreign minister in 2016. He knew all about the Steele dossier. He knew all about whatever it was MI6 was doing, or whoever it was GCHQ was doing, to try to foil Trump getting elected and thereafter to try to make Trump look foolish as president. So the fact that Johnson is now saying we'd be better off if Trump were president. Well, thanks a lot, you stupid fuck. Why did you make it so difficult for him? Why did you
meddling in foreign elections?
Why did you keep Julian Assange in prison?
Right.
And so where we are here is I think we're trying to understand the enormity of the consequences here. It's not merely, and it's tragic, people being killed in Kabul and throughout Afghanistan. It's not merely their loss. It's certainly not merely the loss of this massive trove of military material. It's not simply the loss of Bagram Bagram Airport and base. And it's not simply the demolishment that has now happened of any goodwill towards the American people, towards the American deep state, towards the American Secretary of State and State Department, Defense Department. I mean, this guy has kicked his own ass, Joe Biden. And now we stand here 47 minutes away from him attempting to rumble out of bed or wherever he was to clean himself up.
He's going to YouTube out of bed, rumble.
Exactly. But I mean, it's just, it is disgusting what's happened. And I really, cry. I seldom cry, but I feel so deeply for the many people who must be aghast at their personal sacrifices, those of their family and friends, wasted by this cavalier-ish ass clown. And it does, we mock them here, it takes a clown. Supposedly Kamala Harris, before she went out to Singapore and then to go to Vietnam, why, you might ask, I have no clue, was asked, what about the situation in Kabul at the airport? And she did her trademark giggle, which I think that's a Hillary Clinton giggle. Hillary Clinton's got a cackle, exactly, cackle and a giggle. And you shouldn't be able to get away with this. So this is the kind of thing where we're being tested. The people who did this to us.
By who?
Oh, we don't know yet. The deep state, the people behind the deep state, the people who did this to us. So we think about it. Starting with the events of September 11th, we can go further back, and said, on the heels of those events, surrender your freedoms, embrace the surveillance state, embrace deficit spending, embrace no accountability, embrace no questioning. We're in charge, you're subjects, we're the leaders. Don't you worry about these elections over here. Don't look over here at all the money my family's making. Don't look at the fact that we're putting all family.
Crack we're smoking.
Just don't even look at any of that. Just you should be happy at all the threats that we've stopped that we can't tell you about.
Right.
As we take more money from you and constrain your freedom and constrain your options. Just shut the fuck up, basically, because we're taking everything. So the people who've been doing that for 20 years, and Assange, interestingly, has been trying to warn people that this has been going on. This is not simply Democrats are bad or Republicans are bad. It's anybody who can profit off government is bad, and seriously bad. And many elements of the supposed good cop investigative arms, the FBI, police forces, etc., those are also deeply suspect. And I go into that for a second now. If I may, when one thing that's been dawning on me as I write up and organize and cull the many pages of paper that I have on the Clinton Foundation and the ancillary issues, it does strike me as a recurring theme that with every election, the FBI knows they are the ones who determine who gets a security clearance in the new administration. So they hold the ultimate power, right? I think the president may be able, in a certain number of cases, to say, okay, good, then you get one, even though you shouldn't. But there is a formal vetting process for anybody who holds a high security clearance, and it's conducted by the FBI. So they have all this information, not just potentially stuff where you shouldn't have the clearance, but questionable stuff they can hold over your head. And they cannot be trusted with that power. It's evident. I mean, if you think about W. Bush and his atrocious role at Harkin Energy, and other issues, you could go on in that family. Then you go to Clinton and his atrocious behavior at Oxford and getting kicked out of Oxford, and then on and on and on, all the defects in his character and record. You move on to from both Bushes. Yeah. That's on a good day.
I'm laughing, but it's not funny, because we're now at the bookend of the 2 decades of idiocy fueled by lies.
Right.
Here's the first dope. Biden's the last dope.
It won't be the last dope set.
Well, on this particular little
And
tome of terror, I mean, we are the ones who have been terrorized. I got to say it, Charles. Well, I can't say it here, because then YouTube can say, oh, no, you're questioning the official. You're not allowed to question things.
You can't.
Here we have this outcome. We're not even allowed to question. There's a bunch of people active, maybe even including the FBI and former general counsels from the FBI, who are conspiring to stop us from discussing this, to curtail the First Amendment. And once that goes, everything else goes with it.
By the way, to keep up with Biden, this is vodka, not water.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
It's water. But you mentioned Assange previously. I think we should take a quick look at this tweet from Glenn.
Yeah, that's
Greenwald.
what I was thinking.
Have you seen this?
Yeah.
Because he's saying that the goal was not to have a successful war, but rather to have an endless war. I don't know if people will hear this.
I don't hear it.
That's interesting.
The United States.
You have to.
Sorry, there it is.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
I mean, he says that the goal is to basically run money and wash money through Afghanistan and have an endless war to drive money towards the security state, the deep state, the contractors to the government that don't care that they left billions of dollars worth of equipment there, because now they can sell you more bombs to blow that up and sell you more plans to develop new stuff, because that's all obsolete because the Chinese are going to get it.
Well, peace sucks for the defense contractors, right? You don't want to have world peace, then you can't sell anything. It's that obvious. And the other thing I would note, and people in the SEC who spend all their time watching porn and not chasing financial criminals, you take these companies like Twitter, like Facebook, like Google, like Amazon for that matter, which in many cases do not produce financial results that justify their extraordinarily high valuations. If you know that you've got a pliant SEC and Department of Justice that's never going to look into something, there is no better way to launder money, turn dirty money into clean money, than to have the dirty money go in to buy shares that are then sold, and you recycle in a stock that you know is going up. So if you take dirty U.S. money that's been stolen from Bagram Air Force Base, remember that under Hillary Clinton's watch, a lot was stolen out of Afghanistan, and then under George W. Bush's watch, pallets of cash disappeared in Iraq. This has happened probably going back to World War I, if not before. Now you got all this cash, and you can't just walk into a local Bank of America branch in Kabul and say, listen, I'd like to open up a savings plus account. What kind of a toaster do I get for my $2 billion?
But Charles, how is that type of illegal cash then used to buy shares? Don't they say, where the hell did you get all this money?
So the way you do that, and I obviously would never do this, but I have tried to raise different funds. And I remember one time several times I was asked to go to Switzerland by people who said, well, if you go to this office and you'll meet a guy there and you
go down the alley.
Right. And literally, like one time I went to this bank, I won't give the name out, in Zug, where Mark Rich's was, And we get to this. A lot of the office buildings in Switzerland don't look anything like. I don't know if you've been there, but they don't look anything like a Madison Avenue banker's office building. They look like sort of residential apartment buildings that are weird buildings, and go into this tiny elevator, get off the floor to this carpet, knock on a door. The door is open and all these poodles jumping on the floor. And like this. And then Swiss people, for some reason, Swiss men many of them like to have mustaches and beards and all sorts of jewelry and stuff on their jackets and shit like this. And I'm looking
poodles.
And the poodles are jumping, and I'm like, I don't want any part of this. I don't care where your money came from.
That's
I'm
weird.
out of here, So in another case, I was asked to go. It was pretty interesting. I was asked to go up to near Lugano, or was Lugano actually, and to get there from Milan, we went by train. We're driving a beautiful country in the train, and
Lugano,
Lugano. And again, another one of these, not Stonehenge, but Lugano.
that was from
I know.
Cullen. His Stonehenge was in danger of being trampled by dwarves.
It's quite beautiful actually. It's on a lake.
Here we go.
There we go. The magic of Google Earth. There you see the lake.
Here's the town.
Yeah. And so
I can't see the poodles from here.
that's not the one with the poodles. That was in Zug. But we were in one of these buildings here, right along here somewhere.
Looks a
Train
bit like
station.
Cannes.
Yeah, I remember this very well. The train station's right up here. We got there early, and I remember I had spaghetti bolognese at the train station.
I bet that was good.
It was extremely good. And then we just walked down here to one of these buildings. And it was anyone to pick a building, a nondescript building, and we go up, probably that one, like this one. We go up to, say, the fourth floor or third floor, knock on the door.
Me of Cannes.
Right, everybody is a doctor, dottore, doctor, whatever.
A medical doctor or a PhD
No.
in bullshit?
PhD in bullshit, yeah. See, this is absolutely, probably the very building that I went to. And, I'm sitting there, you have to, if you're a responsible fund manager, you have to know your client. And this guy was trying to say, well, I'm the client. Like, okay, really? How did you make your money? Well, that's really, do you want the money for the fund or not? Not.
It's like, no, we want to know what you're
so
up to here.
Then we get back on the train going back to Milan, and these policemen come in, and they just start opening up everybody's briefcase, looking for fake or looking for securities. So open your briefcase. Why? Want to see if you're carrying securities. I'm not. Open your briefcase. I realized I was in, I think, Italy at that point, so I had to. But the point being that on Hunter's, I think we were talking about Hunter's private equity fund, there is no freaking way that he legitimately got that money. There's also no freaking way that the FBI, people in the FBI weren't noticing that Chinese Communist Party and People Liberation Army companies, People Liberation Army companies controlled by members of either the PLA or the CCP or both, there's no way that a competent CIA, NSA, and FBI wouldn't have noticed that the son of somebody who's likely to become president of the United States or could become president of the United States was putting together these complex funds. I might also point out, and people may not know this, that if you set up a fund that it is going to take money from China and foreign investors to invest around the world, you need to do that if you want to be taken seriously through a tax structure that gets heavily negotiated. You need to think carefully about what should be the main jurisdiction of the principal recipient entity to get the money. Normally that's Cayman Islands. Then you have to structure all these agreements and get all these approvals and work with all these lawyers, all of which creates a trail of evidence that a competent NSA would notice, you think, unless they
competent. It's an important caveat, Charles.
Yeah, unless they were over there with the SEC at the government porn watching conference. Instead of the Olympics, it's like, who can do the least work, watch the most porn, and have the highest security clearance in the American federal government? They gather, once a year at Las Vegas to go through making this stuff up, obviously. But I mean, the level of malfeasance here. Not just in the actors we know about, but in the people we don't yet know about who should have seen this, should have stopped this, and should have made sure that Joe Biden, who sat out the 2016 election contest for some reason, probably because he wanted to steal as much money as possible. Joe Biden was given a talking to after the performance. I mean, think of the performance in the first debate when Kamala Harris literally bitch slapped Joe Biden. You remember that?
Yeah, she called him a racist pretty much flat out, right?
And now look at this. Which clown is on top?
Yeah,
I mean, and how did that happen? How did Kamala Harris's backers go from cheering her leader of the pack performance in January of 2020 to say, yeah, it's okay for you to get coffee for Joe Biden? I mean, why not? I mean, you call him a racist. You're right. I mean, it's just, this is completely the performance of the mainstream media in propping up a series of lies that, as Glenn Greenwald talks about today, that we were winning in Afghanistan. There's been a long,
not being covered really.
Well, yeah, this isn't how it works, in business, right? You don't, in a real business where you have a family, let's say, has a significant ownership interest, a legitimate family in a business. You're not sitting there talking about, you're not pinning this shit on me. You're basically, if you're the finance person in the family, you're making sure the books are right. If you're the marketing person in the family, you're getting new customers with your sales team. If you're the production person, you're making sure the production, it's not a question of pinning shit on one another. It's a question of doing substantive work. And if you're going to sit there a heartbeat away from the clown to step in as president, you better be on top of things. This is not the right moment. Be like, the Vice President of the United States in the middle of a delicate moment in World War II saying, I think I'll go to Rio.
Yeah, got nothing to do with this guy.
Yeah, you can't pin this shit on me. Right?
But didn't she previously say that she had some big role in making this decision?
She's the last person that Joe Biden talks in the room. Yeah.
Great idea, stupid. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's demolish the country. Why not?
People were watching the other day when Lee Stranahan said essentially that he supported this because we're out of Afghanistan. And I think, he did also report, and I hope Lee is feeling all right. I haven't had a chance to speak to him. He had another stroke the following day. So it's possible that he wasn't 100% when he came to that initial conclusion. And I don't want to focus on Lee, but for anyone to think, no one disagrees that the United States should not be having all these wars for decades around the world that do us no good. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we should embolden whatever enemy exists there in every possible way that we can while we simultaneously crap on the veterans, abandon the people who risk their lives and their families to help us in country, abandon our citizens, abandon our allies. It's the worst performance of any U.S. president on any matter ever.
Makes Carter look like a genius. I mean, if you sit there, this idiot, this moron, this imbecile, decides to hold a press conference at, what time was he supposed to be?
Oh, yeah.
It's 4 o'clock. We've got
half an hour from now. We'll watch it in Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Right. We ought to do a Joe Biden drinking game. Every time he says clear-eyed, contingency planning, allies, people have to take a shot or a toke or whatever. But the point here is that whoever is attempting to handle this collection, these are Jake Sullivan's picture is not in here, but the four people here, the Treasury Secretary should be up there as well, but the four people seen here hold the most powerful positions in government. I mean, the Blinken Secretary of State is right up there in line of succession, as is Austin. I think the Treasury Secretary is pretty high up and not pictured. And appropriately not yet in this particular shot is the worst type of person I've encountered in business, in life, is somebody who is fundamentally stupid and totally arrogant.
Right.
I mean, that is
confident and ignorant.
That's Sullivan. That's Jake Sullivan. Somehow the man is Rhodes Scholar, and I don't know if it's Yale Law School or Harvard Law School or where he went to college, because he's got one of these resumes that on surface level make look really wonderful. But when you put him in charge of getting us out of Kabul, you get what we have. I mean, there are 7 people who were crushed to death that we know about so far, who followed Joe Biden's suggestion. Well, if you're an American, you've got a passport, why don't you go to the airport?
Wow.
And
7 people who followed that and got crushed. I knew there were people who got crushed, but I didn't know that they're basically directly following the instructions of the President of the United States, and it's leading them to their death.
right, and people, this is illustrating. I always try to find good in even a disaster. There's got to be some good, and maybe the good here is that we will start thinking for ourselves as a society,
hope so.
And we will understand that this entire period going back. I retired from working for other people or working at all really in July 31st, 2002. The entire period from then to date has been a period where we have been sold a packet of lies about prosperity being possible, and the prosperity we're seeing here, that it's possible for somebody who has no capital to go to school, get good grades, get a job, save money, invest it wisely, and become rich. That is not true, right?
This is not the Babylon Bee. This is Vanity Fair. A neurosurgeon says, I've seen Joe Biden's brain and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, but when did this come out? August 20th, 2019, as they're trying to position him.
Right. No brain damage.
No brain damage. I mean, you have to have a brain to have damage.
But I mean, has he seen it like in a bucket? Opened up at the head and looked at it? Or where has he seen the brain?
Of course he hasn't.
Because it was, I believe, the brain surgeon.
Wait, go back to, it's in there in that article you just had. It was you just were on it. And right there. Now teaching neurosurgery. I could tell you with absolute certainty that he had no brain damage, either from the hemorrhage or from the operations that he had. There was no damage whatsoever from the hemorrhage.
Come on now.
Right.
The thing that I was going to bring up is this medical article. When the air hits your brain, it's never the same. And I believe this guy was the neurosurgeon who actually did the neurosurgery on Joe Biden. And this statement has become sort of famous among neurosurgeons, he's basically saying that there are certain neurological changes that a patient undergoes after brain surgery that can't be really summarized in a chart.
Yeah, but wait a minute. This is back. All right. You're the ex-Hollywood guy, right? This is a real-life story, okay?
Yeah.
We're now trying to find the best person we can to comment on a guy who's an ass clown pretending to be fine. And the best doctor we can come up with is somebody called Dr. Verdosick.
Is that his name?
Dr. Verdosick, Jr., yeah. I might add.
Well, I think this is just the guy who wrote the document and did the surgery on, I'm pretty sure this is the guy who did the surgery on Joe Biden. I don't know who they're talking to here in Vanity Fair who's seen Joe Biden's brain. What does he even mean by that? Where did he see it? I
don't know. But you don't need to be a brain surgeon
to know he's an idiot.
Well, just to realize that it's not simply we're ragging on him fairly because a decent human being, including his wife, if she were decent, which she isn't, would have long ago said, listen, the reason you're going to retire, the reason you're not going to run, is that the damage that you can do if you make the kind of errors in the world that you're making in our household, Joe, when you take a crap in the laundry room, whatever he's been doing, is the damage is so overwhelming and may actually cause a global collapse. I mean, that's
we're on the verge of it.
Exactly. All it would take right now would be for people to push us harder.
China invade Taiwan. Somebody do something here in New York City on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and then what?
Well, and also maybe start fires in Kabul or more wildfires or who knows. But the point is, this guy needs to go. The only thing I want to hear at 4:00, if he does in fact,
resigning
is
today.
I have resigned. Or, we meet the new president of the United States. Kamala's like, the reason I left is I ain't coming back, sucker. I'm going to spend the rest of my life in Singapore. And Valerie Jarrett's the new president, or Michelle's the new president, or somebody other than the two of them. That's all I want to hear. And short of that, which of course we'll all be disappointed, it's going to be, we've thought about this. I've got Jake Sullivan. The reason he's wearing this propeller hat is on his head is because he's an idiot, but he's smarter than I am. And he's looked at every contingency. Remember, that's what Jake Sullivan said last week. We've examined every contingency, okay? The number of people, we plan to crush 7 people to death after Joe Biden's press conference. We plan to let the Taliban have all our munitions. We plan for them to come up with this humiliating video that has, it's the first of many, I'm sure, that has Taliban people with our military equipment in American stuff raising the Taliban flag. This isn't Zero Hedge. I think you'll be able to pull it up. We planned for that contingency. That's what we learned. When I was a Rhodes Scholar, this is I majored in surrendering and destroying this country.
This is one of the most disgraceful things to happen in my lifetime.
Well, it truly is, because this flag, we looked it up actually before we went on air, Jason and I, this is the Taliban flag. There is no such thing as a nice Taliban. You believe this crap?
But
you
this
probably
image
voted for Joe.
Originates in World War II, reinvigorated in the minds of Americans with the firefighters placing the flag on September 11th. And now Joe Biden has given some of the most disgraceful individuals an opportunity to spit in the face of every American, every descendant of every veteran of even World War II now is insulted,
right,
even in death, by this.
Well, and if you'll remember, and I don't know when people, I don't trust fact checkers at this point. There were reports I remember in the heat of the moment when I was in New York City on September 11th, glued to the television set in the office. I just spent the entire day watching.
Yeah.
There were reports of people cheering the destruction. And whether those are true or not, across the world, our enemies are very interested in humiliating and demoralizing us. And this is a gift from a lunkhead, from Joe Biden, from Jake Sullivan, from Lloyd Austin, from Kamala Harris, from all who operate at the highest level of the Biden administration. You belong in jail. You should be, in the case of Austin and Biden, they should both be court-martialed. If it is found in the case of Biden that he took money or his family took money from the Chinese.
Treason.
That's treason, and the penalty for that is rough. It's a
Death.
quick way to lose weight.
All of them who were involved.
I mean, and this is just something, Pearl Harbor was in many ways worse, but here we are, we're sitting, there are reports out of Afghanistan that in order for the United States to evacuate people now, they need the permission of the Taliban. And I can't imagine, I guess, Joe Biden negotiating himself into this position, and probably he's going to give himself a participation medal. Oh, why don't I give myself a uniform? Well, those guys down in South America with the sashes, the dictators, have the big sash, all these medals, This is a performance that you can't sit there and dignify it with simply asking a pointed question. You have to get up, I think, evaluate what is happening here, and decide, as Trump was trying to position last night, whether you now believe the election results were legitimate. I mean, look who has benefited from this lunkhead pretending to work in the White House. Look what this idiot has accomplished. Look at our southern border.
Look at the streets around us here in New York.
Yeah, look at the condition in Chicago and New York and cities across this country. Look at the erosion of our freedoms. Look at the example this is sending to rising lunkheads. If Biden can get away with this,
embolden every tyrant, every stupid little militia in every stupid country around the world. Not only that, Charles, he said something during this historically idiotic speech that I found remarkable. He said, if the Taliban want help, they're going to have to comply with it. It's like, wait a minute. Are you now talking about sending financial aid to the Taliban?
Right. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, he's really, it's to the point. He's like the guy, the boss you meet. I have met bosses like this, and you go out, you have a success, and you celebrate. So you have a big dinner, and maybe the boss drinks too much, and then that boss starts talking shit. I mean, like major league shit to perfect strangers, and
you realize what an idiot he is.
You realize what an idiot, but also, you're like, hey, boss,
Shut up.
No, I did it. I really want to go, and I really want it, That's where he is. I mean, this is a guy who does not have anybody around him who can say, listen, Joe, you are a major league fuck-up, right? This is unacceptable. You are going to kill the Democratic Party. And I don't want to cheer the death of the Democratic Party, even though I think there are a lot of very bad people, frankly, in both parties. But this idiot on vacation, intermittently coming back, surrendering Bagram Air Force Base, allowing this idiot Sullivan to say that he planned for every contingency, but don't worry that Kabul, they're not going to take Kabul, take it in 2 days. And that was 4 days ago. Clearly, he does not have anybody around him who he will listen to, and he's extremely dangerous. I would argue this is a ripe moment for the 25th Amendment.
Absolutely. And, I mean, we've got actual evidence that this guy has cognitive impairment. They were just making it up with Trump. Here he is. I wonder what flavor of ice cream this is, just like 12-year-old girl flavor.
And it's like probably dripping down the front of his shirt. He's like, let me get some ice cream on myself, then I could jump into the pool naked.
Has Obama made any public remarks since?
He's going to have to. I mean, this is, as I understand it, this is prime vacation. There's a sort of a convention in established media that around this time, normally the president's on vacation, so the establishment media goes on vacation, and it tends to be at the time, roughly now, through Labor Day, when the rising generation in media gets a chance to do Face the Nation and do, Chris Wallace and the other shows, and during the week do the shows. And so a lot of serious people, or journalists, if there are any left, are on vacation. But it will not be very long before Barack Obama is going to be asked, what does he have to say about this? And does he care to explain exactly why we traded Bo Bergdahl for the people who are currently leading this new Taliban, which is not 4.0, it's back in the Stone Ages, so however you would do that. The opposite of moving from 1.0 to 4.0, it would be negative 1200.0. How did we explain this swap? I mean, how did we think it through? Who might have objected to it? Why did we decide that we would give up these people who now, today, are in very senior roles, if not leading, this criminal organization, the Taliban? And I've always been, I think, pretty well taught that if you're going to try to do business with somebody, you need to decide whether this is a person you can do business with. You don't just say, oh yeah, somebody wants to buy my product or wants to do... No, is this somebody I really want to do business with? And the answer on the Taliban is, fuck no. Particularly, and if you were David Duke, or if you actually were a white supremacist, anti-feminist bigot,
could join the Taliban.
You might say, hey, yeah, okay, the Taliban I'll do business with. But to go and say you're the party of that bartender moron, AOC, and the people who want us to begin every day. When I was a kid, a little kid, in 1959 or 60, when I reported to school for the first time, you had to say the Pledge of Allegiance every day.
Do you not do that anymore?
I don't think so.
As well.
I think you probably read passages from White Fragility and Critical Race Theory. I mean, the party that is going to say, this is the example, this is the kind of person we want on the squad, is going to say it's okay for Joe Biden to give Bagram Air Force Base to a bunch of people who want to kill homosexuals, who killed a woman in the last
for not covering her face.
Well, and also another one for bad cooking.
Oh my God!
I mean, maybe Afghani food is fantastic. I have not been yet to an Afghanistan
restaurant. I feel like probably no.
Maybe
cuisine is not the first thing on their mind here.
Yeah. So this is the Democrat Party, the progressive wing, that was all in for women's rights, my body, my choice. Kill a baby, days after it's delivered. If the doctor decides that's okay,
make it comfortable and then kill it.
Yeah, that party wants to now stand and say, why are you upset that we turned Bagram Air Force Base, all these munitions, the machine guns, the advanced armaments, the helicopter gunships, all this kind of stuff, big pile of cash,
body armor,
and the propaganda value. And we have now eliminated a gigantic thorn in China's side. China's strategic ambitions have been served by this. Yes, they can say to the Taliban, tally all you want. Go out and Taliban, right? Because there are 1.4 billion Chinese people, and the Chinese people who are the driving distance, they can drive from Afghanistan to China, say, listen, you motherfuckers, you try any of this shit, you know these Uyghurs over here? Okay, they're having a good life compared to what we do to you if you fuck around inside China. And the Taliban's going to say, okay, we'll Taliban inside Afghanistan. We'll stay away from China.
What is it exactly that the Taliban wants?
I don't know specifically with precision, but the political Islamists, of which I think they're definitely one.
Caliphate throughout the world.
They want the world to submit to the will of God as explained in their mind, not only through the Quran, but through the Hadith, which are the teachings. And you can interpret, crooks can interpret either document the way they want. But the basic idea is that women have absolutely no rights. It's the men who dictate. They will say, oh, no, under the Quran, women have inheritance rights and they have this right. Yeah, the Quran talks about, and the copy that I have, it talks about, be nice to your wives and your mistresses. Treat your wives and your mistresses with respect.
Only 50 whippings per night.
Exactly. Oh, there's also chapters, I think, in either the Hadith or the Quran or both about the best way to beat a recalcitrant woman. So
it's almost like a self-help book. It's not just a religious document.
I mean, so the point here is this is not the first group that I imagine the squad would want to support. That said, there are members of the squad, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, who are all in for radical Islam.
I think they were praising Joe Biden. I was looking at Ilhan Omar's Twitter the other day, and she was like, saying, oh, Joe Biden is great for doing whatever he's doing with the Taliban.
I was struck by the Tucker Carlson segment, which had a DNA test result that said was something like 99.9998% sure that Ilhan Omar married her brother committing immigration fraud, not least incest, to get into this country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. I don't think that Laura would have presented that if she didn't have evidence to support it. And it's just extremely distressing, Charles, to see how liars are succeeding. Honest people with evidence are being not only ignored, but suppressed. We cannot have a country that approaches anything resembling justice if we have all of these major things happening on the basis of lies. Even people who say things that I agree with. Judge Jeanine had a really vicious kind of monologue skewering Biden appropriately. She said that all of our European allies were there because we were attacked on 9/11.
It's true.
No, it's not. They're there because George Bush told them to go there.
Well, right, but they did. It is true that they invoked Article 5.
But the notion that the Taliban, Osama bin Laden, or Al-Qaeda executed 9/11. I want to see the evidence, the empirical evidence that a police investigator, a lawyer would bring into court. Show me the documents, the bills, the receipts, the communications. We've seen none of that.
And I want to go further back and understand why the United States supported Osama bin Laden.
Well, we know why. To blow up the Soviet Union.
Well, but who made that? Was it are these the same experts that said, let's support him, and what blowback could possibly hit us? Are they the same people who are now taking contracts,
right,
and are maybe billionaires as a result of all this? But I think, Jason, one idea, because I know we're coming up to the 4 o'clock.
I'm looking for it. Do we know where it's playing?
If you do, I would just look on Google and C-SPAN and Biden and do last 24 hours and see if anything comes up.
Well, but it hasn't happened yet, right?
No, I know, but they announced it before.
Let's see here. C-SPAN. I got it up here.
So the first thing, if we can, so that people can see that?
Yeah, give me just a moment.
because the first thing I would like to have in the back of our minds reminds me of the Blue Water Horizon thing, where they announced Barack Obama was going to do a press conference, and they said it was going to happen at a certain time. And as it happened,
Deepwater Horizon.
Deepwater Horizon, yeah. And as it happened, I was due to go on Yahoo, whatever they called it, Tech Ticker or something like that. And they said they had reached an agreement with British Petroleum to do X, Y, and Z. And I said, that's bullshit. There's no way they've done that. It would be a highly material thing you'd have to disclose. And there's no such disclosure in the SEC. And that was the last time I was allowed on Yahoo, when I criticized Biden and then Obama as rough as I did.
Okay, so people can now see this other screen that I've got C-SPAN YouTube on.
Which one is it?
Up here, but they don't see. So if we just Google,
normally they have Zero Hedge might even have watch the press conference here. The first question is, it's now 8 minutes away. Will Joe Biden start on time? And the answer, of course, is going to be no. The question is, how long? I mean, I don't want to stay here till 10 o'clock at night waiting for him, but as a guess,
acute risk.
Yeah. Where I said on Friday it's okay to go to the airport, what I meant was, don't call us, don't contact us, and shelter in place.
There's something that we aren't thinking about. Could you imagine if there was someone who spent 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, whatever, in Afghanistan, sacrificing things in their life to service the United States government, even if they're a United States citizen, and then this all happens, and the president says, or the Secretary of State, Abe Blinken, says, you're on your own. Aren't we manufacturing enemies, maybe even people
generations.
Yeah.
I mean, the goodwill that we got as a nation after World War II was monumental. If you think about World War II, we were not attacked except for Pearl Harbor, and there were some submarine incursions and stuff, I believe, but on the main 48 states, we were not attacked. Europe was devastated, Asia was devastated, much of the world was devastated, and we emerged from World War II with an incredible infrastructure ready to go.
They were dissatisfied with their cooking.
The complete opposite is the case here. We have spent since September 11th, 2001, creating massive structural annual government operating deficits. We have blown trillions of dollars. We have sent horrible messages to young people rising up the ranks that you can get ahead by being a crook and a liar and dissembler or whatever. We have sent the message that don't look at the facts. If I say I'm a pretty boy, a pretty girl, I say X, Y, and Z, and I've got billions and billions of dollars.
Deserve to be believed.
I deserve to be believed, exactly. And if rumors come that I'm a pedophile or this and that, that only will come out if I've crossed the deep state. It's you just get to, you want a pedophile, you pedophile. I mean, this is mind-numbing.
Yeah, we've never had anything like this before.
Yeah. So no luck, though, on the list?
Well, I mean, it says, abandoning Bagram Air Force Base, stupidest military blunder in
And that's
US
the
history.
senator from Nebraska whose last name is pronounced with a silent S. Senator Ass. He's a never-Trump asshole.
As stupidest blunder in history, they're saying.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, wait, I think that might have been an ad for it. Rumors churn over Biden's mental capacity. No, that's not it. I don't know.
What if you just Google press conference 4 p.m. and Biden? Does that?
Press conference today, I said. Biden speech today. President addresses Kabul. That's from yesterday.
Normally it has...
Here's live, the White House, 1 hour ago.
Well, there we go. Okay, good. Now, what kind of a drinking token game do we want to play here? For each minute
that Biden is late,
one shot.
I don't have any booze.
Not for you do have a whole ton of booze. We're not going to drink it, of course, but we won't be drinking. I think the audience can drink.
The audience can imbibe away and encourage our audience to get hammered.
Well, I don't. That's why I say it should be. What do you think? For each 10 minutes it's a shot.
I don't know what to say, Charles. I mean, I don't want to encourage people to get boozy as hell.
And does this, well, you may want to, depending on what, I doubt you're going to hear something encouraging here.
I doubt that as well.
And meanwhile, the Taliban is watching this as well.
Of course.
That's the
planning their next meme. They're going to start a show on YouTube, and it's going to be better than anything Joe Biden produces.
Yeah, I sincerely hope they don't.
How does it make you feel to see Taliban fighters wearing U.S. digicamo with night vision? And
because again, I come from the view that one consequence of the technological advances that we have witnessed in the last 20 years is that we don't need a major media organization to put on this show, which is technically, you say, and I believe, very difficult to do. And that we're broadcasting worldwide, live now.
Taliban could be watching.
Well, I hope not, but yeah, exactly. But yeah, so what this means, though, is there's been an inexorable increase in the size and cost of America's government in the last 20 years. I mean,
it's obsolete.
I'm talking about federal, state, local government is ballooned in size. Nobody is checking to see if any of this money, we're giving money away to our enemies. You know what we're going to do? I'm going to run because I'm tired of the United States being in Afghanistan. I'm generally just tired. I really love little girls and watching laundry spin around. And I just don't, it's the summer. I don't want to go to Afghanistan. I'm just going to leave. I can't take the shit with me. I only get 2 bags on the plane. So you can have the Air Force, you can have the helicopters. What am I supposed to do? Get Federal Express in here and ship the helicopters back? I'm not going to do that. Think about the impact that'll have on global warming.
They tried to make a big deal out of him, like canceling or delaying his vacation. I mean, who cares?
It's like saying Jeffrey Dahmer has delayed his vacation. I mean, he's literally actually killing people here. Actually killing
people.
But
that shouldn't impact his vacation. I mean, let's be reasonable.
Oh, man.
There's almost... I mean, everybody in the comments is just sharing our outrage. I don't know what kind of...
Well, I think we need to plan ahead, certainly to November of 2022, but maybe before.
I think September 11th right now is the next milestone. That if we can get past that without any of the emboldened lunatics, because by the way, there's got to be people in New York who 20 years ago may have been...
I'm talking about a different approach. I'm talking about, we do a lot of talking, which we're doing to try to inform the audience, and we like comments and criticisms and suggestions as well that inform us. We have to prove to the world that the people of the United States are better than this government.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we need to prove, unfortunately. We cannot let this insanity stand. We just simply cannot and should not do it. And so I think we're moving towards a peaceful moment where somebody, whether it's Trump or I don't know who, and it would be so refreshing for a Democrat, like, say, a Tulsi Gabbard or somebody to say, Tulsi, I don't know if she served in Afghanistan, but she definitely served in the military, to say these are not our values. We do not take the people's money and give it to Stone Age criminals who are engaged in other than the FBI, who are engaged in
CIA,
in running drugs, in sex trafficking,
sniffing little girls. You're talking about the Taliban.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
sorry.
We just, these are not our values, and I think the Europeans are very fairly incensed by this because it's they who are going to see the flow of Afghan people first.
Right.
And I'm not saying, I'm sure there are many nice Afghan people, but there are, unfortunately, too many police reports and news reports of Afghan refugees across Europe raping, killing, torturing, molesting boys, girls, you name it. And in Europe, the judges, because they're so much smarter than we are, will say, well, that's just the way they live.
It's cultural.
It's cultural. We can't discipline
differences.
That. So are we a minute in? Yeah, we can't do a minute late for each shot because, that would be... I have no interest in a liquor store.
4 o'clock now, And so people are right. So we've got here, Charles, we've got the direct live feed here from the White House.
Now, I'm not sure I can, there's no sound coming from
Nothing
that.
yet,
Okay.
no.
So we'll have to do a test when it comes.
And then the thing is, we've also got we've got over here, the Washington Compost has their live feed of a dude standing outside waiting, for Joe Biden to eat ice cream or sniff a kid or whatever he's going to do.
Now, why would you, if you're sitting there, why would you say, you know what I want to do? I want to really wallow in it. I want to talk about the storm. I want to talk about Afghanistan. I want to talk about COVID. What is this, Woody Allen apologizing for everything? I mean, focus on the Afghanistan situation.
I don't think the storm should be discussed.
Let the Weather Channel deal with the storm, which is actually, maybe there'll be problems, but it's not.
Seems less than what they anticipated.
Yeah, it's not as bad. And as for another COVID explanation from Dr. Joe Biden, zip it. We're not interested. We're interested in the people. What is the time difference between here and Kabul? Is it?
I don't know.
Might want to. Kabul. Be down here. Keep further down. Right here. It is 12:32.
Oh, the Taliban's staying up late.
So it's 8.5 hours difference.
They seized all the Sony PlayStations from Bagram Air Force Base, and they're up smoking weed, playing World of Warcraft.
What is that? Jay and Silent Bob? That's Joe Biden. He's Jay and Silent Bob.
They're like, "Come on, Joe Biden, give your speech. We got to go to sleep.
That's right.
It's getting late in Kabul."
But for something like this, if you were contrite, if you knew what you were doing, you'd show the fuck up on time.
You would be there right on time.
Right?
It's funny, when I was a little kid, they had a video game called Kabul Spy, and I had no idea what Kabul was.
This is what Joe is doing in the basement. He's playing this game.
Yeah, he was basically, this is the computer system they use to plan the...
Now, for example, I don't hear anything.
There's no sound coming from this.
Right, those were the days.
But this was the video game, basically, Kabul Spy.
Are you sure that isn't an X-ray of Joe Biden's brain?
I've seen Joe Biden's brain, and it exists, Charles.
Now, how many minutes exactly? Because mine says 4:04, and I think there's a...
Well, this thing says 4:03.
All right, so there's a 1 minute difference. 3 minutes late.
Yeah.
You got... This is not just anything... Okay, you have people around the world, and in particular in Afghanistan, and people who are related to those in Afghanistan, who are...
He's like a crappy bar band. They say 9 o'clock, but it might be 10:30.
That's right. Biden time. But this is not trivial stuff. Now, I do see some movement over there.
In the window here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's the curtains blowing. There's a door
No, you
opening.
see there's somebody walking by. Maybe they're taking him out.
Literally.
Yeah. No, Joe, we don't want to see you in a swimsuit. You're going to have to wear a suit.
Hey, my legs stand up in the pool and little kids, you touch them. Wow. I don't know, Charles. This is just one of the most disgraceful moments of my life in American history. I just don't.
And we think about the Marines, with all the branches of our fighting forces are quite something. But here's a guy bravely standing sentry at the White House. How many Marines are now at Kabul airport? And what are they doing?
I don't know.
While this idiot, if this guy starts...
You mean Joe Biden, not the guy standing outside here.
Joe Biden. Well, if he starts out saying, well, good news...
that was like 5 days ago.
Yeah, no, good news. I just heard from Storm Field, or whoever it is, that, the storm surge is only 6 inches, and it's not that windy. If he starts there... Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, that seems like right now, he's in there like, no, I don't want to go out there, Joe. You have to go to school today.
Now, look, this is interesting. This live stream on the WAPO is 2,590 people are watching that. And how many people are watching us?
879. Oh, not including Rumble. We're also live on Rumble. Oh, thank you to the 155 watching us on Rumble. Welcome. Please subscribe to Rumble. And then we've got 143 there, 879 on YouTube's. Odyssey.com is
So we got
another,
1,000 roughly, and you're not Jeff Bezos.
Not Jeff Bezos.
Right. And so, I mean,
I'd have a much nicer apartment.
Yeah, and how about, he's got 5 apparently here. So how many are watching on C-SPAN? Do they say?
Let me just get a number here for how many are watching us on Odyssey.com. Does it tell me? Live stream is in progress. Do you see number of people?
7.
Oh, well, maybe more people want to check us out on Odyssey, but which was the one you wanted to check?
Check the C-SPAN for Biden.
Yeah.
Does it show you how many are waiting? Probably they eliminated that function because it probably says 6 people are waiting. And meanwhile, on the Trump rally, which had its demerits, now this is a different...
Here's C-SPAN. They're out to lunch. They don't seem to have it set up.
But we'll just go down in a second here, Jason. Look at this. 7,400. The thing from 2 days ago, all he has is 7,400 views. I mean, here's a guy, the mainstream media is seriously trying to pretend that a man who could not get as many people cumulatively in his campaign, in quotes, appearances that he had in 2020, as showed up at the Trump rally last night in Alabama.
We have half as many people viewing us making fun of him.
Yeah. There's just no way.
On a channel that's been beaten down by social engineers to less than 5,000, when normally there should be 120,000 or more.
Right. And so it's very clear. And what a great picture. You know, and bigger, it looks better and better. But it's just very clear that there is no natural enthusiasm whatsoever for this moron.
Oh, we have someone watching from Macedonia. Welcome, Macedonia, on Facebook.
Thank you. You didn't even count the Facebook.
I'm not sure how to see how many are viewing live on Facebook. You know, the different interfaces to these different things are...
And just to the viewership, when we, and Jason is every much a stickler on this as I am, when we say we're going to come on at 3 o'clock, barring a technical difficulty, which does happen, you know, there's all kinds of issues.
You've seen me fly around this room.
But we make every effort. If we say we're going to be live at 3, we're generally live close to 3.
There's literally a handful out of the thousands of shows that have been like 3:01.
Right. And so what I also do is when I tell Jason I'm going to be here at 2:30, I actually generally get here early and sit on the street and look at the email.
I'm guilty of being slightly late.
I didn't bring that up.
But I'm not the president, and we haven't destroyed an entire country.
Right. And you don't, I mean, just in terms of management 101.
Ireland.
Hey, Ireland. You don't go and say, look, we've got a fucking series of messes around the world. I don't want to screw up your Sunday brunch.
Let's get a coffee before we talk to everybody.
No, they're having a national security meeting before this 4 o'clock thing, right? What you should have done is you should have said, listen, let's hash out our problems. Let's understand that they have the time difference advantage, that when we are sleeping deeply, which is most of the day for Biden, but while normal people are sleeping deeply, let's say from call it 11 p.m. until 5 or 6 in the morning, in that time frame, that's when the Taliban are going to work. Right. So that's when they're manufacturing the atrocities and the challenges that this team of idiots is going to have to try to deal with. I mean, Jake Sullivan planned for every contingency. He knows exactly how to handle this. He knows how to surrender. He's a cheese-eating surrender monkey, as someone
He looks like
said.
He's 15. Oh, my God. He's born in 1976.
Yeah, what is his background, actually? He of course he went to Yale Law School. Look at this. Sullivan was also a senior advisor to the U.S. government for the Iran nuclear negotiations.
Great.
Those went well.
Oh, my God. This is absolutely the idiot team back in charge.
Where did he go to college? Please don't say Yale.
Nassau Community College. No
Oh,
offense
man,
to people
Yale.
Yeah, Yale University.
Yeah,
oh, my God. This is Magdalen College.
It's pronounced Magdalen.
Magdalen College is where crackhead Stefan Halper that's where I went to talk to them to see if I could speak to the crackhead. So is this guy a Rhodes Scholar?
Yes.
See, I mean, this is not good, Charles.
Yeah. Well, keep
Phi
going.
Beta Kappa as well?
Well, yeah, this is actually,
No.
let me just give you a few insights from my experience at Yale. The Alpheus Henry Snow Prize is a big deal at Yale. I think it's for the person with the highest,
Biggest idiot?
no, highest GPA in the social sciences or whatever. But to get in, I was not in Phi Beta Kappa. To get into Phi Beta Kappa, there's your junior year people. Those are the really smart people. You get it after 3 years, and then the people who get it after 4 years are very smart, but not quite.
Hawkins alleges this is a secret society created in 1776 to infiltrate, undermine, and ultimately destroy the United States of America.
It could be. The equivalent, though, Jason, is there's something called Sigma Xi, which is for the sciences, something else, and my father's in that. And there's something for high school kids called the Cum Laude Society, and I'm in that. And in the case of the Cum Laude Society, it's just the top X% of the class in terms of your GPA.
I don't want to interrupt, but I do need to mention that you've got this Phi Beta Kappa, and then there's the incredibly weird pseudo counterpart, which is Kappa Beta Phi.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. I mean, this is a joke, frankly.
Hawkins says these things are related, and that it's like the flip side of one and the other, and that they are up to no good.
Well, I mean, there are certainly people in both, but
my recently quit lawyer is Phi Beta Kappa.
Again, Phi Beta Kappa, my understanding of it is that there's a cutoff of how many, your GPA is your GPA, and if your GPA is at a certain level or higher, you're in Phi Beta Kappa.
Taliban has a cutoff too. It's the head.
Yeah, but then you could say that maybe the grades are not administered fairly, and they're manipulating people into Phi Beta Kappa. But anyway, let's stay on this for a second.
Yeah.
Though. He did go to Yale College. He did get a Rhodes Scholarship.
Terrible.
And also to get a Marshall Scholarship is very hard. Okay?
Court Marshall Scholarship?
No, Marshall Scholarship is one that the English gave in gratitude for the Marshall Plan. And where the Rhodes Scholarship, there's a lot of leeway. It's supposed to be for scholar athletes, but they threw that out.
So wait a minute.
Let me just finish if I could. And the Marshall Scholarship is for people who are top of their class educationally. And really, I mean, it's a very, very difficult thing to get.
But what I'm saying is, this guy is a Rhodes Scholar, Oxford double-cross, double agent, and you're telling me he's getting every single scholarship that seems to fortify exactly what I'm saying.
And he's from Burlington, Vermont, which is interesting.
Good
Jacob Jeremiah Sullivan. What, John Jacob Jeremiah Smith? Remember that?
Burlington, Vermont is probably eating a lot of Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
Yeah. But I'm sorry. This guy this is an example of somebody who was promoted. I mean, I don't know how he would have gotten all these things across the line, and then turn out in real life to be as horrible as he was a senior person in the Hillary Clinton campaign.
He doesn't project confidence when he speaks. He looks like a frightened kid.
Well, actually, I was working with the Japanese, and there was a guy like Sullivan who had PhD in this or whatever, and he would just choke under pressure. And this Japanese guy won't do it in the heavy accent that he did. He said, "This guy, last name was Beaver." It's not the best name for a man to have. But anyway, this guy Beaver projects all the confidence of a rat soaked in gasoline approaching a fire. And his guy, Jonathan Feiner is not much better. If you could click on his deputy. Let's see, he's right underneath there. He's got a Wikipedia.
Can't even shave for his picture for the official photo?
What's the matter? You can't afford a razor? Let's look into his credentials. Did he go to Yale Law School?
He went to, where did he go?
Yale Law School.
Yeah, Charles, I mean.
He was a Rhodes Scholar.
Yeah, these guys are all.
Wait a second. He's also from Vermont. He went to Harvard undergraduate.
Oxford.
Yeah.
Right. So these guys are traitors.
And how old is this guy?
Same age as the other idiot.
76, exactly the same age.
Right.
Wait a minute. Susan Burek.
I remember the feeling that I had when I received an issue of Playboy magazine where the first centerfold was born prior to me.
Oh boy.
Later than me, right. And I'm having a completely different but similar sensation right now that we have these punk idiots destroying our country. They are traitors. All of these guys. It's not just get rid of Joe Biden, because these idiots will stay.
Right. Now, we still don't... God, good thing I'm not playing the drinking game. You'd be
hammered already.
I would definitely be. If I had to have 14 shots, you get him?
Yeah. That's his hope, is that...
Something's happened.
The door opened.
Letting that... Remember Obama would give these press conferences and that fly would go on, a big black fly would go on his nose, he'd brush it off, and another one... What just happened there, Jason?
The guy just opened the door. It was like a false start. I was watching a clip from, sadly, Fox News last night on YouTube, and they had one of the guys apparently on Fox News is a Afghanistan veteran, and he was having like a Zoom call with somebody who was in the United States but was an Afghan interpreter who had worked with this guy, and he was describing how the Afghan interpreter was describing how his family is in Afghanistan, and because the Afghan interpreter had risked his life to help the United States to fight the Taliban, they're being targeted, but he's one of these people who have this special visa, special interest visa, what do they call it?
I don't know.
SIV or something?
Yeah.
Special, I forget what it stands for, but it's a special visa that's supposed to get you right into the United States, and I support that, by the way. If you're helping United States forces overcome an enemy in a foreign country, that is the type of thing should get you a special consideration for coming here.
No, I have a much better program, Jason. I like the way you think, but you've got to take it to the next level. The program is very simple. That person comes in, and Feiner goes to
exactly trade.
Another person comes in.
Yes,
Jake Sullivan. That's have planned for idea. Every contingency, right? You know, the impact on the planet will be the same, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, though, along the lines of, I know you're joking, Charles, but this Afghani guy that they were interviewing on Fox News, clearly very intelligent, obviously knows what's going on in Afghanistan. Taking somebody like that and giving him a role in the U.S. military makes a lot more sense than taking these punk idiots who have been to Oxford and Yale and every traitorous scholarship. Who are they beholden to? These British assholes who have financed their careers and put them where they are? Certainly not us. They're destroying the country. These are the idiots who are making the decisions behind the closed doors.
Right. And you do remember, of course, that in the 60s, the 70s...
Well, I remember the 70s a little bit.
That in the 60s and 70s,
there
were the number of Soviet, in league with the Soviet Union spies that were operating in Oxford and Cambridge and the LSE, etc., was quite significant. Now it is already. Oh, there we go. I don't hear anything.
Let's see.
Here it comes. All right.
Can you hear me? Hang on. Work on that.
Always a strong opening to wipe your nose. Buzzing. No sound. We see the
way and will offer any assistance they need for this terrible moment. Let me also say a few words. What was now tropical storm, not hurricane, Henri, which made landfall at approximately 12:15 this afternoon in Rhode Island. Henri is impacting much of the Northeast right now, and I want to talk about our efforts to prepare and respond to this storm. We have been closely monitoring Henri's progress and making the necessary preparations. Fortunately, it's no longer a hurricane. It's been downgraded to a tropical storm. And we are taking it seriously, though, because the size and the storm surge and the rainfall is producing. It's also impacting an area of the country that has already experienced heavy rainfall over the past several days.
Why are you talking about this?
And while New Englanders are used to dealing with some tough weather, this storm has the potential for widespread consequences across the region with significant flooding and power outages that could affect hundreds of thousands of people. And so we're doing everything we can now to help those states prepare, respond, and recover.
Good to know.
I can't think of anyone better to lead this operation than
Kamala Harris.
Deanne Criswell.
I can't think of anyone to lead this
FEMA.
operation.
Before she headed up FEMA, she led the emergency response in New York City, and she
runs
was
the Girl
one of the
Scout
key federal officials
he's
leading
giving
the
the weather
response to
report ahead of-
Superstorm Sandy.
It's like,
She
by the way,
knows this area
Afghanistan is
very,
being
very
destroyed,
well
but
and
expect
knows what's
rain
needed
later
better
today.
than anyone.
That's right.
Yesterday, I
New
talked
York.
with the administrator and each of the governors in the key states most likely to be affected. I urged them to take advantage of the assistance FEMA can offer in
that's
advance and committed to do everything we can to support their communities through the storm and afterwards. FEMA has already pre-positioned resources in the region to speed our ability to respond, including food, water, and life-saving
switch to
communications
the-
equipment, as well as generators. In close cooperation with the electrical sector, preparations are in place to address significant power outages.
Dude, there are people being crushed to death
And committed
at the
to do
Kabul
everything we
airport.
can to support their communities through the
Listen
storm
to me.
and afterwards.
Talk
FEMA has
about
already
Afghanistan.
pre-positioned resources in
Shut
the region
the fuck up
to
about
speed
the
our ability to
storm.
respond, including
shut up.
food, water, and life-saving communications equipment, as well as generators. In close cooperation with the electrical sector, preparations are in place to address
should just
significant
put
power
Andrew Cuomo in
outages
charge
and
of the whole
resources
thing.
and supports
Get
is
that
staged
5-year-old kid
at the
that
edge
Trump
of
was
this
talking
storm
about.
to be able to move
I
quickly
don't
in
care
to help.
about what you
Thousands of additional
about
line
a
crews
tropical
and
storm.
vegetation clearing crews from
we've
other states and from
destroyed
Canada
our
are
prestige
already
around the
heading
world.
toward the impacted
think.
states.
The fact
New
that you
England,
did that is
ready
much
to
more
serve
important than
and
whatever you
move
may
in
think
as soon
about
as
this
it's
storm.
feasible.
Shut up.
They'll clean up fallen trees, help local utilities repair damaged
Fallen
lines,
trees?
and
Oh,
restore
no.
electrical
What
service as
that's
fast
a
as
novel
possible.
idea.
Sounds
I
catastrophic.
want to thank these
I
crews for their commitment to
would
helping
always rely on
their
you
fellow
to get that
citizens
done
in
for
time
me,
of
Joe.
need. I've already approved emergency declarations for Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New York, which
about
activates
Massachusetts?
funds and means we can get in there and help as soon as this extreme weather has moved through. We don't know the full extent of the storm's impact today.
You don't know
But we're
anything.
acting to prepare for and prevent damage as much as possible and to speed help to affected communities so they can recover as quickly as possible. I also want to encourage everyone to do their part to prepare. Follow the guidance from their local authorities. Some
Get to the
places have
Kabul
already
airport.
had heavy rains and winds and dangerous storm surges. Henri is going to continue to move across much of the Northeast, so it's important to monitor it closely and be prepared in your home, in your community. Make sure you have the supplies
shotgun.
for your entire household, including necessary
shotgun, I love
medications
that.
and food, water, battery-powered radios in
This is
case
so
of
unheard
extended
of
power
that he would be
outages,
spending this
power
much time
outages.
talking about.
And don't forget,
Meanwhile, the
you
Taliban
may
are looking
need
at
the
this
sheikh
woman and
shelter
saying,
while you're
"What are you
battling
doing on the
the
screen?"
Delta
So why did he put a
variant
woman interpreter?
and
Generally, it's a sign language person.
COVID-19.
It's generally
So wear a mask.
a guy
and try
with
to observe social
wild
distancing.
hair.
And
a
everyone
big
across the
flowing
country,
beard.
don't get caught by the next storm. Get
Why
vaccinated.
don't they just have?
Get
why don't they just
vaccinated
have
now.
words? Why do they
Protect
need
yourself
sign
and your
language?
family against COVID-19. It's going to be a vital part of emergency preparedness
Or now
this
you got
year
a
for
vac-
the
it's going to
remainder
talk
of this
COVID
year.
vaccine next. So this is
Now let me turn to
I was taught in
Afghanistan.
the news business that you
I've
lead
continued to
with the
make
most
progress
important
since
story, right?
I've spoke to
So
you on
first
Friday.
we'll talk about Henri.
We have
now we're going to
moved
talk about
thousands of
and for
people
those
each
of you
day
at
by
Rehoboth
U.S.
Beach,
military aircraft.
there's
Right.
a
The surf
COVID.
report.
Yeah,
little over
there's a
30
special on
hours, in a
suntan
little over
lotions
30
and
hours this
umbrellas,
weekend.
and
We've
you can get
evacuated
your
an extraordinary
Moderna
number,
jab
as I will
free.
detail in a minute, about
You know, it's
11,000
ridiculous.
individuals. That number will change day to day as the air and ground operations in Kabul vary.
Oh, now we're
Our first priority in Kabul is getting American citizens out of the country as quickly and as safely as possible.
we screwed that up.
My direction, the State Department continues to reach out to the remaining Americans we have identified by
Who are
phone,
alive.
email, and other means to ascertain their whereabouts and their plans. We're executing a plan to move groups of these
Look at her
Americans
signing.
to safety and to safely and effectively move them to the airport compound.
Why is she grimacing?
For security reasons, I'm not going to go into the detail of what these plans entail.
Oh,
But
okay.
I will say again today that I have said before, any American who wants to get home will get home. We've also
Could
been
be in a bag.
evacuating the citizens of our NATO allies and our partners, including their diplomats, their embassy staff, who remain in Afghanistan and to get them back to their homes as well. And as we do this, we're also working to move our Afghan allies who stood with us side by side and other vulnerable Afghans, such as women leaders and journalists, out of the country.
Yeah.
As of this morning, we have evacuated nearly 28,000 people since August the 14th on both U.S. and coalition aircraft, including civilian charters, bringing the total number of people we've evacuated since July to approximately 33,000 persons.
33,000.
Did he say that? Oh my
24-hour
God.
period this weekend.
We know how to lose.
23
We know
U.S.
how to
military
surrender.
flights.
Give us a chance.
Including 14 C-17s, 9 C-130 flights, left Kabul carrying 3,900 passengers. We see no reason why this tempo will not be kept up. During the same
give you
period,
a
our
reason.
military facilitated another
Jen
35
Madison
charter
says
flights,
the sign language
carrying an
person is
additional
saying this guy has to
4,000
go.
evacuees to other countries that are taking them out. Altogether, we lifted approximately 11,000 people out of Kabul in less than 36 hours. It's an incredible operation. Let me be clear. The evacuation of thousands of people from Kabul is going to be hard and painful, no matter when it started, when we began. It would have been true if we had started a month ago or a month from now. There is no way to evacuate this many people without pain and loss of
So
heartbreaking
why are we
images you
doing
see
it
on
this way,
television.
moron?
It's just a fact. My heart aches for those
Oh,
people you
sure.
see. We are proving that we can move those thousands of people a day out of Kabul. We're bringing our citizens, NATO allies, Afghanis who in fact has helped us in the war effort, but we have a long way to go, and a lot could still go wrong.
Oh, you're
To
in
move
charge.
out 30,000 people in just over a week, that's a great testament to the men and women on the ground in Kabul and our armed services. It also reflects a tireless diplomatic effort. In order to keep a steady flow of planes taking off from Kabul and maximize our evacuation capacity, we have quickly stood up an unprecedented global effort and established a series of processing stations in third countries. In short, we're not flying them directly to their country, we're flying to these processing stations.
Resign.
We're working with more than 24 countries across 4 continents. We've secured agreements with the Gulf, across the Gulf, in Central Asia, and in Europe, including processing centers in Qatar, Germany, Kuwait, Spain, and elsewhere. It allows us to sort and process these evacuees. These transit centers provide a safe place for the SIV applicants and other vulnerable Afghanis and their families
And you can get
Not
back to
according
it.
to the
complete
SIV
their
applicants,
paperwork
though.
while we
and-
conduct
and you're
security
probably gonna give
screenings and
forced
background checks
vaccinations
before
as
they
each one of the
continue on to their
evacuees
final
is that.
destination in the United States or in another country, one of our NATO allies as well. And so from Asia to Africa, from Europe to the Western Hemisphere, nations are making generous offers to support resettlement efforts. And I've been in personal contact with the leaders of many countries, including Qatar, Germany, Spain, Italy, the UAE, and others.
What about the
They're
UK?
making vital contributions. To thank them for their support
Take a
and to
look at
discuss how
Joe
we can
Biden's
continue to
thumbs
coordinate our efforts in
down
Afghanistan
on
moving forward is
the
the reason why I
White
continue in
House
contact.
YouTube channel.
And I want to again thank all of
Can
our
we do a
partners
thumbs
for their
down?
continuing
I'm not
to
signed
stand
in on
together.
this computer, but
I
We've
would
also
encourage our
activated the
viewers to
first
thumb
stage
down.
of what's referred to as the Civil Reserve Air Fleet to help with the onward movement of evacuees from these
there's only
transit
4
centers.
times as many people watching
Military
the White House
aircraft
as
and others
us.
will get them to these centers.
amazing.
But then
I mean,
we're
the
going to get
patent
the Civil
speech, I don't know if
Reserve
we could
Fleet.
put that up
It's a
after
program
this,
that's
the
designed,
Trump did.
was
I mean,
designed in the wake of the Berlin
got
airlift
this,
after World
or you
War
got
II
that? Take
to
it
use
back.
commercial aircraft to augment our airlift capacity. This is a voluntary program for our commercial airlines, and we're grateful for those airlines and the U.S. carriers who are supporting us. This effort will only use 3 or 4 planes from each of the
Exciting,
major
or-
carriers.
Oh,
Vast
3 or
fleets of
4 planes
aircraft.
from each of the major
So there should be
carriers
no
who are going to
effect
put
or
unvetted.
minimal
Everybody's
effect
worried
on
about
commercial
whether I
air
have a
travel.
piece of paper on my
And we'll
face
stay in
before I
close
can walk
coordination
into a
with our
restaurant.
partners
But
to
we're going to take
mitigate
every
any-
person from any country, we don't know where
These
they're from,
civil
put them on an
reserve
airplane,
flights
and then
will
fly
be
people
helping
around the United
facilitate
States
Around
in
the
those
world.
airplanes.
Around the world.
From
No, but I mean, what-
staging locations and transit centers like Qatar or Germany to the United States or to a third country. None of them will be
You don't
landing in
have a
Kabul.
president talking about
Now,
this,
the
these
American
minutia
aircraft that are part of
details.
this will not be
Tell
going to
us
any country but the United
when
States.
you're going to resign. That's what I
As this
want. When are
effort
you going to
unfolds,
resolve?
I
Well,
want to
clearly
be
he's not.
clear about three things. One,
Number
Douglas
one.
gives 33 to
planes
1
taking
odds
off
to
from
mention
Kabul
Saigon.
are not flying directly to the United States. They're landing at U.S. military bases and transit centers around the world.
Transit centers,
Number
Greyhound
two.
bus stops.
At these sites where they're landing, we are conducting thorough scrutiny, security screening for everyone who is not a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident. Anyone
Or
arriving in the
lawful
United States
permanent
will have undergone
residence?
background check.
Means resident.
Number three, once screened and cleared, we will welcome these Afghans who helped us in the war effort over the last 20 years to their new home in the United States of America, because that's who we are.
Oh,
That's what America
we're
is.
clear-eyed.
You know, I've been touched by the outpouring of support that we've seen from communities, organizations across America mobilizing
Where
to
has he seen
support
that?
these
I see
efforts.
everybody saying he's an imbecile.
So many of these
Exactly.
Afghans stood
I've
bravely
been
by U.S.
touched by
troops in
claims that I'm an
Afghanistan.
imbecile.
Now, the United States, including veterans groups, refugee settlement agencies, religious organizations, and so many others, are standing with our Afghan allies. It exemplifies the best of America.
This
I
is
want
the
to say
worst thing
again
that's ever
just how
happened.
difficult
look
this
at- look at
mission
this-
is and how
designers.
dangerous
Look,
the
so-
dangers it poses to
Down
our
in the
troops on the
dumpster.
ground. The security environment is changing rapidly.
Yeah, for the worse.
There are civilians crowded at the airport, although we've cleared thousands of them. We know that terrorists may seek to exploit the situation
You think?
and target
Maybe.
innocent Afghans or American troops. They're maintaining constant vigilance we're maintaining the constant vigilance to monitor and disrupt
Or they
threats
are.
from any source, including the likely source being ISIS-K, the Afghan affiliate referred to as ISIS-K. But we're under no
What?
illusions about the threat.
I never heard of that.
I said on Friday, ISIS-K is a sworn enemy of the
ISIS-K
Taliban.
sounds
It's
like
the
a new
Delta
rap
variant.
They have a history of fighting
It's
one
the
another.
Delta variant of ISIS.
But every day we have troops on the
I know
ground.
positive K.
These troops
I
and
heard of
innocent
him.
civilians at the airport face the risk of attack from ISIS-K from a distance, even though we're moving back the perimeter
This were
significantly.
a vaudeville show.
We're working
There would
hard
be
and as fast as we can
rotten
to get people
tomatoes
out.
and bananas.
Thrown right
That's
now.
our
The
mission.
giant hook would pull.
That's our goal. And our determination to get every American citizen home and to evacuate our Afghan allies is unwavering.
Sure.
We continue to see not only the enormous scope and scale of the effort, we will see the individual lives that are affected,
Yeah,
the
you
families that are desperate to get home
Yep.
to their loved ones in America, the communities of veterans who have mobilized to try to help
Why
their
is he
former
talking
interpreters
softly,
get
more
to safety,
softly?
the frightened Afghans who aren't sure what to do. To state the obvious, it's heartbreaking. We're all seeing it. We see it, we feel it. You can't look at it and not feel it. Nothing about this effort is easy.
I get off the topic
But
of
the women
feeling,
and men
but
of the United States Armed Forces are acting bravely and with professionalism and with a basic human
Unlike him.
compassion. I want to offer my profound thanks to our service members on the ground in Kabul and to all those at U.S. bases around the world who are welcoming and caring for these evacuees. And to all the diplomats and civil servants who are working around the clock to rescue American citizens, the citizens of our allies, our Afghan partners, vulnerable Afghans such as women leaders and journalists. What we are doing is extraordinary.
no.
And you have to think of all they're doing. Thanks to the people from all over the world who are helping this effort. So I want to thank you, and I'll keep you informed every day as we move forward. May God protect our troops and our diplomats and who are serving in harm's way.
Where's my
And I'll
blankie?
take a few questions. Darlene from the
here we
Associated
go.
Press.
Thank
Yes.
He always knows the name.
We're 9 days away from the August 31st deadline. Will you extend that deadline, or what is your thought process on
He doesn't have a
Here's
thought
extending the
process.
evacuation operation?
There's discussions going on among us and the military about extending. Our hope is we will not have to extend, but there are going to be discussions, I suspect, on how far along we are in the process.
Yeah.
Mr. President.
Mario Parker, Bloomberg.
Thank you, Mr.
Mario
President.
Porker.
just to piggyback off the August 31st deadline, you told the G7 in Cornwall, you promised them support back in June. If they ask for a larger or a longer American presence past the August 31st deadline, what will you tell them on Tuesday, sir?
I will tell them that we'll see what we can do. Look, we are working closely with the G7. I've spoken with most of the leaders of G7. I'll be doing a conference with them, I think Tuesday, I'm not certain.
That's called an
And
ass whooping.
we'll have that
Will be
discussion.
yours.
But we already have helped get out diplomats from other countries. We've already helped get out citizens from other countries, and we'll continue to do that.
And Mr. President, it sounded like you've extended operations into Kabul outside of the airport. Is that correct?
What I'm not going to do is talk about the tactical changes we're making to make sure we maintain as much security as we can. We have constantly, how can I say it,
You ought to know.
increased rational access to the airport where more folk can get there more safely. It's still a dangerous operation, but I don't want to go into the detail of how we're doing that.
Yeah, because you don't.
Andrew from the Wall Street Journal.
Thanks, Mr. President. Our reporting on the ground shows that Afghans with the proper paperwork are still having trouble getting to the airport. Some say they feel abandoned by the U.S. U.S. Embassy staff still haven't, some U.S. Embassy staff that are Afghan haven't been able to make it into the airport as well. Why isn't the U.S. doing more
I have
to
no clue what
allow
you're talking about.
Afghans
What's the
to
answer?
the airport, to ensure access to the airport?
I
Are
love
you
the
still
silence.
opposed to setting up an extended perimeter around the airport to help ease that access?
Number one, I think you're going to see they're going to get out. Number two, we have made a number of changes, including extending access around the airport and the safe zone. And we've done a number of things, again, I don't want to get into detail about. But
Of course.
the fact is that more and more of the groups we urgently want to get out of Afghanistan, starting with American citizens, and the folks who worked in the embassies and personnel with our allies, as well as the Afghans who helped them and worked in those embassies, as well as those who helped them on the battlefield as well.
This is as
We are
reassuring as
working
the plague.
diligently to make sure we've increased the ability to get them out. We've changed the gate operations and a whole range of things, and that's why we've been able to significantly increase the
Purple
number of people.
Prose suggests someone needs to throw a shoe.
Right, yeah, that would be good. High heel, preferably.
We've discussed a lot with the Taliban. They've been cooperative in extending
good.
some of the perimeter.
You could
That
trust
remains to be seen whether we ask that question. Ed, fire away. I don't want you jumping over that.
Following up on Andrew's question, because the United States is now negotiating with the Taliban over airport access and such, do you now trust them? And then a question on the public response. A new poll out
Look at
today
him
shows
laughing. Kamala
Americans
Harris
wanted to
giggle.
withdraw from Afghanistan, but they disapprove of the way you've handled it. Poll also found that based in part on what's transpired in the last week, the majority of Americans, forgive me, I'm just the messenger, no longer consider you to be competent, focused, or effective
Whoa.
at the job.
I haven't seen that poll.
You're going to see it.
From CBS this morning. What would you say to those Americans who no longer believe that you
Look.
can do the job?
You lying dog face, Boris
I had a
Johnson.
basic decision to make. I either withdraw America from a 20-year war that, depending on whose analysis you accept, cost us $150 million a day for 20 years or $300 million a day for 20 years.
That's between 150
Who,
million and
you
300
know I
million.
carry this card to
Per
me
day.
every day, and who, in fact, where we lost 2,448 Americans dead and 20,722 wounded. Either increase the
take my
number of
notes.
forces we keep there and keep that going, or I end the war. And I decided to end the war. As I said the other day, you know,
I'm an idiot.
the only reason we're in Afghanistan is this is the place from which bin Laden attacked the United States of America. Had this been in another Middle Eastern country where he could have easily have moved from, we would have never gone to Afghanistan. So the question is, when is the right time to leave? Where are our national interests? Where do they lie?
Why did you
And the
stay
idea
10
that
years
we are in
after
a
you
situation
killed
where
bin Laden?
we can not
11 years.
recognize that terrorism has metastasized around the world, and the need for us to focus on other parts of the world which create an even greater danger of an al-Qaeda-like operation beginning can't be ignored. And we are, as you well know, because you follow this, we are a number of places where we're doing that without permanent basing American forces there.
Over the horizon.
So when this is over, the American people have a clear understanding of what I did, why we did it, and but look, that's the job. My job is to make judgments. My job is to make judgments no one else can or will make. I made them. I'm convinced I'm absolutely correct in not deciding to send more young women and men to war for a war that, in fact, is no longer warranted.
On the question of the Taliban, though, do you trust them now? Do you have to negotiate?
I don't trust anybody, including you. I love you, but you know, there's not a lot of people I trust.
Fuck off.
To look, the Taliban has a.
So that reporter's on par with the Taliban.
The Taliban has to make a fundamental decision.
How much to
Is the
grind
Taliban
America
going
into the
to
dirt?
attempt to be able to unite and provide for the well-being of the people of Afghanistan, which no one group has ever done since before?
He's setting up to send
for
money
hundreds
to the
of
Taliban.
years.
We're not doing that.
And if it
No, he's
does, it's
getting
going to
ready.
need everything from additional help in terms of
See?
economic assistance,
he's saying this.
trade, and a whole range of things. The Taliban has said, we'll see
This son
whether
of a
they mean
bitch
it
is
or
getting
not.
ready to send the
They're
money.
seeking legitimacy.
Can't let him do that.
They're seeking legitimacy to determine whether or not they will be recognized by other countries. They have told other countries as well as us they don't want us to move our diplomatic presence completely. But all this is all
That is
just
until
talk
they
now.
steal as much of it as they
All
can.
just talk now. And so far, the Taliban has not taken action against U.S. forces. So far,
What?
they have, by and large, followed through on what they said in terms of allowing Americans to pass through and the like.
Kicked our
And I'm
ass
sure they don't
gracefully.
control all
He's
of the
an idiot.
forces. It's a ragtag force. And so we'll see.
That's not their fault.
We'll
Charles.
see whether or not
signer
what they
is just
say
hilarious.
turns out to be true. But the bottom line is this, folks. Look, at the end of the day,
Cliche.
if we didn't leave Afghanistan now, when do we leave? Another
Why don't
10
you leave
years?
the White House
Another
now?
5 years? Another year? I'm not about to send your son or your daughter to fight in Afghanistan. I don't
They're
see
there now,
where that is in
douche.
our overwhelming
Right
interest.
now
And to
they're
talk
there.
about
What
how
about the people who are there
our
now?
interests are going to be impacted. Let me tell you, you're sitting in Beijing or you're sitting in Moscow. Are you happy we left? They'd love nothing better for us to continue to be bogged down there,
No.
totally
No.
occupied.
They're
with what's
delighted
going
by
on.
this debacle.
So the idea, I think that history is going to record, this was the logical, rational, and right decision to make.
Also said
Thank you
Neville
also very
Chamberlain.
much.
Gotta go. Nappy.
The British are calling for sanctions. They're going to discuss sanctions on Tuesday. Would you support
Look at
sanctions
this.
against the Taliban under certain conditions?
If you're going to leave, leave.
On Friday, you mentioned harsh conditions if they
Oh.
misbehave.
The answer is yes. It depends on the conduct. Thank you.
Mr. President, what about ISIS and the threat that Americans face
Now,
now?
look at the way he's walking. Walking. He's walking in that old man shuffle.
Charles, that was a disgraceful performance by an absolute buffoon.
I think buffoons do better than that.
Buffoons do better than that.
You don't start out. Everyone watching the situation in Afghanistan doesn't give a shit about the weather conditions in Rhode
In
Island.
the Northeast, right. It's
Right.
such an isolated, minor, going to be gone by tomorrow thing.
And it links you right into this issue. We cannot project the weather precisely over a 24-hour period, right? We can't do that. So you're now tying this moron into a discussion of the weather and what he thinks is going to happen with the weather. You lead with that. You then talk briefly about COVID, and then you get into Afghanistan. That performance, if that speech had been given by somebody trying to be an officer, entry-level officer in the Navy, in the Army, or Marines, or whatever, they would not have graduated their program. That was preposterous. It was the message was horrible. Inaccurate, most likely. And now he does it at a time where the Taliban say, all right, This guy's
going to do nothing.
He's Mr. Mashed Potato Head.
They're going to send us money. Listen to what he's saying. We need economic support. And now we need bullets for all these great guns. And, when this body armor wears out, we'll get more.
And plus,
night vision, we need batteries.
We don't need any razors. But no Gillette. Sell your Gillette stock. But, God, this is disgusting. You compare that to the video that Trump put up with Patton. I don't know, we probably can't do that, but people...
I'd rather not play that. I have to tell you something. I was extremely disappointed with that Donald Trump presentation last night, and so was the audience when he said everybody should get vaccinated. They booed him.
Right.
Then he praised Mike Lindell.
Yeah.
Who, again, I know a lot of people who watch Crowdsource the Truth say, oh, Mike Lindell, overall, he's doing a good job. And the analogy that I've made is that if we've got an airplane that's 99% good, but somebody deliberately puts a bad part in the engine, that's not okay.
Right. Right. Well, no part of it, even the premise of this press conference is that we care. I wonder what the voting ended up being there to this stop. It's 1.6.
I did get my one negative thumbs down in there on the White House on the phone. I was able to do that. Let's just refresh and see. It looks like he has a total of 355 likes to 1.6 thousand dislikes.
And how many people were watching?
Pretty bad. It had about 4,000 or 5,000 at the height of it.
So basically 75% of the people watching gave him a thumbs down, roughly.
Yeah. As a result of being a dope.
That was pathetic. The right time to have given, if you don't know what's going on at the airport right now as you're trying to evacuate, and you may know this, Jason, but the audience may not know that flights out of the Middle East in the summer tend to take off at night because it's
too hot.
It's also high in Afghanistan. Elevation is pretty high, I think, in Afghanistan. So it
affects the lift, the density of the air.
Right. So most of the flights are going to take off and land now, not at noon or whatever. And for him to comment now as these flights are taking off and landing,
risks.
The risks are massive. What you would do is whatever we've done so far with the Taliban has not worked well. It just hasn't.
You think?
And you have to take a radically different approach. And telegraphing to the Taliban that you might give them, that's pretty funny. Might give them more money after all this. That's like Bill Clinton telling Juanita Broderick, put some ice on that after the second rape in half an hour. It's ridiculous.
Ben and Jerry's, I heard, is sending ice cream to the Taliban.
I'm sure.
It kind of looks tasty, that ice cream.
Yeah. We're sort of, right now, we have not yet seen the grotesque behavior that is coming. There is no scenario where the people who kick America out of Afghanistan subsequently say, all this guerrilla warfare and fighting and making fun of America, we actually like Burger King, and we like giving women voting rights, and we like female prime minister, and we don't need these women cooking for us and taking care of us. We don't need 4 wives. We don't need any of that. That's not what's going to happen once we ultimately do leave. And Biden is trying, and the people around him is trying to get away with a scenario where they go through this inane press conference, and by the time the disaster really strikes, which will be shortly after our actual departure, whatever date that is, they'll then try, well, that's old news. We warned you, we planned for that. Yeah. We told you this was going to happen.
It's a disaster, Charles.
Does Zero Hedge have a take on it already?
It's, that would be fast, right?
Well, sometimes they're pretty fast.
Security advisor warns of acute, it's the same stuff they had there before.
4:25.
The thing is,
that's new, Jason. 4:25 p.m.
What's it got?
That's 4:25.
Here,
now let's see what the comments are like. Yeah, President tries again to defend his farcical exit. This has 25,000 views, okay?
Wow.
Let's hit on this and see how many comments they have.
What's this? national security meeting.
Yeah, with all these masks on. These guys, why isn't he wearing a mask if everyone else has a mask?
I don't even know. Probably they just put it on for the photographs. The black eye.
Ramirez is great.
Did he know he was lying when he said he had no knowledge of any Americans having trouble to get to the airport? No, he probably didn't have any knowledge because you could tell it to him and then 1 second later he's not going to have the knowledge.
So there's 408 comments. I think you go further down, you can see the show comments. Let's see what they say. I highly recommend Zero Hedge, actually, not because it's always right. That's funny. Just point the damn teleprompter at the camera so we can read it for ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a crowd that's going to rag on him.
The best sitcom on TV, this treason.
There are some clever people. I mean, Charles, it's so difficult to really even kind of anticipate what might happen next. I really feel like we are all, the United States is like a 747 right now that we're all on. This guy's flying it and he's asleep at the stick.
Well, we're all myself included, we're all part of the problem. We willingly pay taxes. We willingly suspend disbelief. We willingly assume that the people in government actually know what the fuck they're doing.
I don't assume that.
Well, but you don't organize a candidate to get rid of, Joe Biden or somebody else. We're talking. We're energizing.
Yeah, I mean, this right here is the best idea I had as far as
No, it's a very good idea, but I'm saying the next step forward, and I don't know if it's before or after September 11th, when regimes fail, as happened, for example.
You mean this one?
Yeah, as happened in Romania is one example. The people gather in the capital and they demand that
resignation.
The person resign. And that's, I think, where we are right now. If this guy does not resign...
He's got to resign.
It's not just him. I mean, the whole
administration has got to resign.
Right. And I think...
then what? Have a recall election? Can we do that? Is there any...
There's never been a precedent in the United States like this. There's never been somebody this fucking stupid.
I agree.
And this fucking corrupt. I mean, the guy had... this is his third strike as far as I'm concerned.
What was 1 and 2?
Well, 2 was the press conference on Friday. Right, where he basically said, go to the airport. Everyone go to the airport, And
like, those people got killed, Joe. I was unaware of that.
About that.
God forgive me.
I don't want to discuss any tactical aspects of my plan to screw this. Go to the airport.
Yeah.
Well, I think number one was saying that we're going to. Number one was probably giving up Bagram Air Force Base whenever we did that, July 2nd or 5th or whenever that was. Number 2 was the press conference where he made an ass out of himself, and the Friday press conference. And number 3 was this press conference, which was so far away from being what it should have been. I mean, you don't soften the audience up talking about the weather. You don't briefly talk about COVID.
I did not know about this, Charles.
This is the Associated Press, by the way.
From July 5th. 6th, sorry. So, but they're just saying that they just left and didn't tell the new commander. Could you imagine you show up at the Air Force Base and it's like, hey, where is everybody?
We left.
Oh, yeah, we left. You didn't hear about that?
Yeah, the people outside the gate, do they
Charles,
like us?
There's no way. How does this happen? It's not like Joe Biden is the night watchman security guard at the Air Force Base and he just went home. How did this not go up the chain like, hey, we can't abandon this whole entire Air Force Base. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, we don't want to tell you anything that would upset you, Jason, so we just...
doesn't this seem strange to you?
Well, this smacks of the team that backed Biden has blood on its hands. I mean, major league blood.
And its face.
Everywhere. And they, though, had a plan to continue Barack Obama's campaign to fundamentally transform, i.e. wreck America. And they knew once he was deemed to be the winner by Brett Baer and others on the news media, they knew they had a limited number of days to get the damage done. And they just worked very, very quickly. They counted on the rhinos and the conservatives even to not be as tough as they should have been, They counted on the American people to say, we're not going to, look, we had an election, give the guy his honeymoon period, let him do this stuff, we'll take the pain. Those are not American values. We do stand for something more than going into a country, dropping bombs on it for 20 years, saying that we're chasing insurgents, causing all kinds of physical, economic damage, allowing the people in country, the leadership of the country, to fleece their own people and us, allow these horrible people who we put in or allowed to be put in Afghanistan to flee the country with money and other things. We set this example yet again. And so it is in the interest of troublemakers to create trouble, because they know now in the end, the people in the Taliban were committing war crimes. And
they're about to get money.
Yeah, let's give them money for that, It is, don't think I have been more disgusted by the behavior of our government
Ever
in my life.
I'm with you.
And it's not enough. I mean, it's just not enough to sit here and complain about it. I'm afraid we're going to have to think through certainly how to make our voices known in 2022, but it may be that it will become necessary to encourage people in power to impeach, convict, court-martial, et cetera. Because I would love for this to be, I would love to be wrong in the statement I'm going to now make. I would love it to be the case that, in fact, Jake Sullivan is really smart, and in fact, they have worked out a deal with the Taliban where they're going to pretend that they might commit atrocities, but in fact, let me finish. And in fact, what they've done is they've got this all sorted out, and in fact, we'll wake up tomorrow morning and girls will be given top positions in this interim government. None of that is going to happen.
Charles, the notion of the United States of America negotiating with the Taliban.
It's horrible.
It is as if I walked into Washington Square Park and one of these homeless individuals who came up to you were in negotiations to invest $5 million in his plan to consolidate garbage into a shopping cart. How is that negotiation? How does that go?
No, it's absurd. I was setting up I was doing a false argument. I'd like to believe that everything's going to be fine, but in fact,
it won't.
What this is, when you do this, when the United States goes into the gutter to negotiate in the filth with these people and gets outsmarted to this level, you have now said to the world, we are really fucking stupid in the U.S. and we are really stupid and vulnerable. Come take advantage of us. So the Chinese are going to do something on Taiwan imminently.
Yeah.
Something bad happen around the world on September 11th. This is now going to become a major holiday for the insurgents.
Yes.
To say, this is the day that we first crushed the will of America was September 11th, 2001. On the 20th anniversary, we're going to celebrate this. The best is yet to come from there.
That's what they're going to say.
That's the way, and they're going to be recruiting across the world hotheads to engage in more atrocities. If this regime inside Afghanistan shows any semblance of being positive towards the West, that leadership is going to be replaced by an even harsher set of critics, and they are just biding their time until they can really do the worst to us after we've left. And Joe Biden taking credit for these baby steps, glorying in what a great surrender he's managing. I mean, come on.
It's worse than a surrender.
It's a defiling.
A surrender implies that there's some control, and this is just, I don't even know what.
Yeah, and the other thing to point out is that there are various elements inside Afghanistan, and it's not necessarily clear that the Taliban are going to be the ones who end up in control of whatever mayhem happens after we are out of there. I mean, it could well be that Al-Qaeda ends up in control over that, whatever they call ISIS.
K, or what did he have?
Special K, ISIS K.
Some ISIS K, right.
Yeah.
It's like Diet ISIS.
When people, exactly.
He's introducing the new line. Diet ISIS, hybrid ISIS,
That's
electric
right.
ISIS.
That's right. Oh, man. I hope that patriots in this country and our allies will help us get through the cleansing that we have to go through here, ridding this country peacefully of the scourge that is Joe Biden and the Biden administration. These people are disgusting human beings, what they're doing.
How has Barack Obama not said anything? I mean, this is not only the logical continuation of his presidency, the fact that he released the guy who is now the leader of this. How could B-Rock not say anything?
Well, let's just look down the page. Has he said anything recently?
He's like, I'm still getting over my birthday.
August 17th.
Oh, wait a minute. Look at how many more. Didn't Trump have 80 million?
90 million. He's got 130 million
When did
followers.
that happen?
I don't know.
Dozens of people are in Haiti. This is August 17th. So when did Joe's disaster start unfolding?
When was he born?
Yeah, well, right. But B-Rock dropped off of Twitter on the 17th.
Right.
Whoa.
Let's see, actually, does Tony Blair have any tweets? Interesting, he would dad, husband, president, and citizen. Did he bring that one up?
Tony Blair Institute.
No, Tony Blair at the top. 1,800 tweets in the last
That's
hour.
about him. But I don't see an actual official Tony Blair Twitter. Isn't it also likely, Charles, that, I mean, this is a bit like, Institute, this is his official Twitter when you Google it. So he's laundering money probably through this. But isn't it
no
true?
Doubt.
Like, listen, when you're playing poker, they call it detecting weakness at the table.
What does it say? Well, when was this? 7 hours ago.
Drawing up a list of incentives and sanctions. So he also wants to give
No, there's
money
a typo
to the
in
Taliban.
there. There's a typo.
Where?
We need to be drawing up a list of incentives and sanctions and other things that we can do in order to use the leverage we have, which is insignificant. The not word should be not there.
Well, yeah. So, but he's talking, incentives means, okay, Taliban, now that you beat us and we're in a terrible negotiating position, we could give you money. I mean, this is ridiculous.
It's like, and our institute has an office in Afghanistan and we can help you out. Just give us a contract.
In a poker game, Charles, they describe this moment, and it can be an instant that needs to be acted on right away, or it goes, where you can just sense weakness at the table. No particular player is making an aggressive bet. You can read the up cards, and it's like, there's nothing going on here. I'm going to make an aggressive move and take over this hand and take the pot. Isn't it reasonable to presume that world leaders of major countries are thinking, this is my chance to get on the world stage as the big guy running everything, since Joe Biden is a brain-dead idiot and there's nobody at the wheel in the U.S.?
Absolutely, that is the case. Beyond that, I mean, this performance of the many failures in Biden's career, none has been this bad.
Right.
And you got to believe that the various and sundry people who are trying to work on this project with him, the Save the Presidency project, they're all talking, probably not all on secure phones or via secure media. And the spies are watching around the world, and they're saying, my God, look what these people did. These 75,000 people did to America, having spent 20 years in Afghanistan. We got 1.4 billion people in China. And the way we play is slightly different. The way we play is, of our own team, you don't get the job done, we're going to kill you. And we might kill your family too. I mean, it's a slightly different approach. And the Chinese are watching this and saying, look, we're never going to have a better chance than this.
Yes. Exactly. Weakness at the table.
Not good.
Not good.
So a great job by the art department.
We haven't even told people, if people haven't seen, this is the movie Shakes the Clown.
Right.
And it takes a clown to destroy America.
Right. And I think the superimposition of Joe's face, that's the real color of his hair, actually.
I don't even know what the hell is going on with Joe Biden. But, I mean, yeah, it's the perfect face for a perfect idiot.
Yeah.
This is just, we're in some of the saddest, darkest times I could imagine.
It reminds me, actually, as I think about it, when Barack Obama, B-Rock, was president and came time for March Madness in 2009. Now, I happen to remember this, that March 6th, I think, or thereabouts, was the absolute low on the Dow. And B-Rock says, I know what I'm going to do in this time frame. I'm going to actually show people my choices in the NCAA tournament, which nobody ever gets right. He actually filled out one of those cards, and he allowed himself to be.
Doesn't that affect the betting if the president is?
No, because those college games, nobody ever can predict with any kind of precision.
Except the guys who are throwing the games.
Yeah, they're the one who are fixing it, like fixing elections. but it's that kind of a moment. I don't want in the middle of a financial abyss, markets yawing wide open, and the world wondering if we're going to survive. Is there going to be a global collapse? I care not.
Right.
Which college team
right.
Barack Obama thinks is going to win 64 games, or however many different games there are. And more to the point, I really don't want the President of the United States wasting time thinking about that. Right? I want the financial markets not to collapse.
Right.
And even if you solve that one, there are other problems we have around the world that are a little bit more important than what Barack Obama thinks is going to happen in the tournament. By the way, he got nothing right, which is, of course, you'd expect that.
Oh, Charles.
So this was a first. We were
sort of Mystery Science Theater 3000 with stupid Joe Biden. I want to thank everybody who's been watching us on the various social media channels on which Crowdsource the Truth can be found. I want to just make sure that we're still live there on Rumble and elsewhere. We've got 180 people watching us on Rumble right now, Charles. Thank you, everybody on Rumble. Don't forget to subscribe to Rumble. It's totally free. And you can also watch us on Odyssey.com. I think we've only got 7 people watching on there. Maybe we got to refresh to see. But Odyssey is another good way that people can check us out. Some of these alternatives to YouTube are really cool. I guess it's calculating how many people are watching. And of course, Charles, as you know, people can sponsor the show by visiting subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. It's helpful if people join on Subscribestar if you don't have a preference. That's where the Crowdsource the Truth video server is working. We're still doing a beta test, and some people have been confused. In order to keep subscriptions open to people who want the most economical access to Crowdsource the Truth, that's why I created this Crowdsource the Truth video server. Is just becoming too expensive between Vimeo, Patreon, all the different transcoding things that are needed to make that work. So by implementing this server and doing it on subscribestar.com, I can still accommodate viewers who want to watch but are maybe on a tight budget. I'm sorry if that's a little confusing for people, but it's a beta test on subscribestar.com. The other platforms, people who want to sponsor for higher amounts, they're still open. I want to thank every viewer sponsor that makes this show possible. I want to thank you, Charles,
my pleasure,
for joining me today. Despite the inclement weather,
I'll swim home.
We're going to have to see what happens with this ridiculous clown.